What's going on, Nerd Nation? It's your friendly neighborhood Nerd King, Mac Taylor. We're doing an intro for the Caddyshack 1 and 2 podcast. It's been a little bit since Cole and I had put out a podcast. I know that seems to be the story I always have to keep saying, but it really does feel like now's the time where we can really pump out some content between podcasts, between shorts, between sketches. We have a lot of things happening within MacPack Studios. So be prepared to hear more of my voice. I know that's, me talking. Shocker. It happens all the time. So we covered Caddyshack 1 and 2. It was nice to get a break from horror. We had done a lot of horror films on the podcast, and this isn't meant to be a horror film podcast, but we have done a lot of them. But it was nice to kind of take a break. The next few after this are horror. So it's going to be a little bit, the rest of 2022 is going to be horror, but heading into 2023, there's going to be a little bit more of a mix. There's going to be horror, there's going to be some comedy, there's going to be some coming of age, and there's actually going to be some action films that we're probably going to throw in. We're going to try to give it a little bit of a mix up here as we continue forward down this Film Vomit podcast road that Cole and I have embarked down for over a year now. But not just Cole and I started this thing with my roommate TJ years ago, and it has evolved, from different hosts all the way down to this. And I think this is the formula that we were really actually doing quite well on. So without further ado, let's go to Caddyshack 1 and 2. Hello and welcome to the Film Vomit Podcast, an extension of the Vomit series of podcasts. As always, we're your hosts, Cole Selby and Mac Taylor, and today we're doing a little bit of a double feature comedy style. We're talking about Caddyshack and Caddyshack 2. Cole!
Yeah.
Do you have a past with Caddyshack, or is this a fresh go for you?
It's fresh for Caddyshack 2. I've definitely watched the first one in my youth.
I feel like even if you haven't watched it, you still know like some of the beats.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's one of those movies, honestly, that people just have like fleeting memories of.
Yeah. So I maybe had seen it like once, maybe twice as a kid, but like I hadn't watched it like as like, a normal movie fan, like, as a not child.
Yeah.
So it hit way better because like I get the comedy now.
Yeah.
Because this movie does not have a really an appeal to children. There's like maybe 2 or 3 scenes that I would have found funny as a child.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wit, a lot of comedians doing their bits in this.
Yes. A lot of big names.
Yeah, a lot of big names. Some of which hadn't quite yet become as big of names. We have Bill Murray, who was at the time still on Saturday Night Live, but would go on to be Bill Murray. With such films as Ghostbusters and Scrooged, and like literally the guy's pretty much anything the guy's done is not known property.
Yeah.
Then we have Chevy Chase, who again, Vacation, Fletch, Community. The guy's got a repertoire. Also had comedian Rodney Dangerfield, who had a little bit of a film career, but this was his first movie.
Yeah.
Directed by Harold Ramis from also Ghostbusters, but who also directed a few Bill Murray films, acted in a lot of films as well. Was definitely one of those 80s comedy guys.
Yeah.
And also it has another Murray in Brian Dole Murray, who was he was the main guy behind this. Like in my research, I didn't really know this, but like a lot of these scenes are like his memories of being a caddy.
Oh, okay.
So, Brian Dole Murray, the one who played the leader, like the boss of the caddies.
Yeah.
And Bill Murray's older brother. He was a caddy, and Harold Ramis, I think, was also a caddy. Oh. And so like in like discussing stories, they kind of like, this would be a good movie. So I think it's kind of cool that he like drew upon like
Yeah.
his like actual life experiences.
Yeah. I mean, a little weird life experiences, but it like works for a movie.
Listen, if you
Had
work for
to.
rich people, you're gonna see
Yeah.
some shit. That's
Oh yeah.
just, and plus it was probably like the 70s,
Yeah.
maybe like late 60s, early 70s when he was caddying, like the wild times
Yeah.
to be a teenager. So and then and we'll get into it in talking about the film, but this film wasn't
Yeah.
meant to center around Chase and Dangerfield and
Yeah.
Murray. It was meant to be about young caddies, like a coming of age film with like the teens in this movie.
Yeah. It kind of like fuses together, like kind of muddies a
It
little bit.
blends very
Yeah.
nicely as compared to the sequel, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But it was just meant to be a movie about caddies, but because they let the cast improvise, you have Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, and Bill Murray improvising. That's just
Yeah.
a whole other movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I get a lot of some of the people who played the teens were kind of miffed
Yeah.
that their like breakout movie kind of got cut down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I feel like you see it coming when those guys sign on to the project. Like
Yeah.
either at
Yeah.
that point you try to keep up or you just lose it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a lot of talent to kind of be behind, you know?
It's a tough deal, because I get it. I know a lot of them went into it thinking like this is gonna be like my movie where
Yeah.
I'm gonna get parts because of this, and all people can talk about is like Bill Murray's quotes and shit
Mm-hmm.
after the movie's over. So, but like the teens did a great job.
Yeah.
And it felt like there's a whole other story with them that you could have told deeper, but at the same time, I can't say I'm dissatisfied with the end goal here.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead. Let's dive in. Let's talk about some of this stuff. It's
Yeah.
a little harder to talk about a comedy film like this because the plot isn't as relevant.
Yeah.
What makes it good? It's just like beat, especially with the comedians they got. Like Rodney Dangerfield talks so fucking fast.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many jokes being made that it's really hard to keep up sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're just along for the ride with him. And Chevy Chase is like that too, because it's like hit a joke, hit a joke, hit a joke, hit a joke, slide a joke, hit a joke. So you can't talk about everything, but I'm interested to go into this. It's a break from horror for a while. So it was really nice to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So we start out with an absolute banger, the I'm All Right song, which was made for this movie.
Nice.
Just it feels like like an 80s comedy immediately.
Yeah.
Like it just with the song and like the way it's shot and like the scene of him, like he's in this house just full of siblings.
Yeah.
And this utter chaos, which is also Brian Dole Murray's experience because he has so many brothers.
Mm.
It's an interesting way to like we meet the gopher in the open of the movie.
Yeah.
And then we go and we just follow this kid going to work.
Yeah.
Like his dad's like, now you gotta, because the authority figures of the 80s was just like, you need to get a job and think about your future. And they're like, I don't know what I want to do.
It's like, Dad, I'm still in school.
Like he has a job, like he's working.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, because that's not your whole paycheck. And he's like, I got a couple of Cokes. How many Cokes did you get? I don't know. But it's a trope, but it doesn't feel like forced. That felt very natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just see him. He like climbs like down this like fire escape kind of deal in his house. It'd be a great opening, great song.
Yeah.
Just get you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're in it early. You don't have to have a big extravagant open. You can just set the mood and ride that, and they do that. Also, Doug Kenny, this is his last film before he dies, ultimately. Writer of the National Lampoon.
Oh.
like big comedy guy from like the 70s. This was his last project before he killed himself, fell off a cliff. It's not clear.
Yeah.
Which there's a, if anyone wants more info on that, there's a great movie called A Futile and Stupid Gesture based off Doug Kenny, which maybe we'll cover on this podcast because I love that movie. I would love to dive into it sometime.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then we meet Ty Webb, who is played by Chevy Chase and has, there's a lot of improvs. There's just a lot of Chevy Chase isms.
Yeah.
In Ty, but it doesn't feel like he's just being Chevy Chase. It feels like he's still playing a character.
Yeah.
He's just giving his Chevy Chase isms to the character for the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
In the sequel, we'll talk about how it does not feel like the same person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here, because Ty is a rich guy, he has like these construction companies, but he doesn't care about like class or golf, which is what this movie does revolve around.
Yeah.
He just wants to he doesn't keep score. He just wants to hit balls and holes. Like that's what he wants to do with his life. And it's respectable. It's respectable. And Danny, the kid from earlier, is his caddy who like kind of gives life advice to in a way.
Yeah.
Where he's like, follow your, your heart. If you don't want to go to college, don't go to college, And then he does the whole be the ball bit where he blindfolds him and he's like, you got to be the ball. Which is kind of like a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
Like you just got to feel out the moment. You can't plan shit out.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's good. It's good. It's good for this movie.
It is, and again, the Chevy Chase does his shtick, but still gives the scene because it's still about Danny. Ty's just here to have a couple of jokes, but also like hammer this point. He's not. It doesn't feel like he's like overshadowing the scene.
Yeah.
And it's a great introduction to Ty Webb's character here. Speaking of intros to characters, we meet Carl, played by Bill Murray.
Oh yeah.
Who was originally intended to be a silent character. It was meant to be like like an old like silent film gag where with comedy, like a Buster Keaton bit. But you cast Bill Murray, you let him go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to tell Bill Murray to not speak.
It would have been a waste of Bill Murray if that's what they like forced onto him.
So as soon as they cast him, Harold Ramis was like, just go for it. Yeah. Whatever you feel like you need to do, just do. So again, it's another instance of like, this was supposed to be a very minor character. It had a couple of jokes, but you put Bill Murray in it. So you're going to remember. In fact, his character is what everyone talks about in this movie, even though he's really not. He's only in a few scenes.
He's not really the point of like the plot. Really, like
he's really not important at all, except for the ending of the movie.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he really is integral to.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's just around like some scenes every now and again doing his bit.
Yeah, him and the Gopher, the never-ending war between them two.
Which was kind of replicated in Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide.
Which was really good. Actually, I did not even think about that. That's
it did just hit me now, but like with the weasel, like that's kind of the same bit.
Yeah.
But honestly better.
Yeah, a little good. Yeah, that's hilarious. I never thought of that.
it's gonna keep sinking in.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
But yeah, so we're introduced to Carl, who's like a war veteran. Maybe it's hard. He's such a bullshitter. It's hard to really know what's real. What he's saying. He's also a huge pervert because he's just like saying all these things while these older women play golf. And also like the greenskeeper's like a Scottish guy, and I thought they were gonna make like jokes, like Scottish jokes.
Yeah.
They never do. They make one joke about his accent. But it's not even that like his accent is so bad that's the joke. The joke is that Bill Murray's character is so stupid that he can't interpret what he's saying. So I was like, yes, does this movie do some lowbrow comedy bits? Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go as low as it could have.
Yeah.
So
Especially for the 1980s.
Exactly. Like today, of course you wouldn't do it. But then they definitely would have had like a fat bastard, shtick.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it. The restraint. But also, like, why did they just cast that guy? Because it doesn't, because it's not a joke and it's not part of a bit. It's just he's there. So I wonder, did this guy just audition? And they're like, he's good. Throw him in. It's the same thing with Maggie, whose character we meet in a minute, who's Irish.
Yeah.
That's not part of the plot at all.
She just is.
We just meet a character who has a very thick Irish accent. So, I kind of appreciate it.
Yeah.
In a way. Because I think in an early draft of the script, we were supposed to say like she was an exchange student for the summer. But they got rid of that, but never felt the need to explain anything. They just like, she's here. She's here working. This is the thing. It's very interesting to me. Oh, we also get the ball washing bit where like Carl's like washing the, but he's like dirty talking these women. Talking about like barking like a dog and things. Yeah. Again, another bit that probably hasn't aged that well.
No, I mean,
but it's a Bill Murray-ism for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then this is the one time where we get the Scottish joke because he's like, you need to kill the Gophers, and he's like, well, if I kill the Gophers, won't they just put me in prison? And again, the joke isn't that. It's not on this guy. It's on Bill Murray because he's stupid. That's that. But it's a funny gag.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever see that guy again either.
I really don't think he's.
He might show up one more time.
I think he showed up one more time for like a little bit. I can't.
But mostly when we see Carl now, he's just doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Because now he has his task of killing the gopher.
Yes, which is great.
Mm-hmm. We also get the pitchfork gag here. Like Carl's like telling this like war story, and he's like slowly like putting a pitchfork to this guy's neck. So the guy's like really starting to get worried.
Yeah.
And it was a real pitchfork too, and it was improvised. So that actor is like legitimately very uncomfortable because he has no idea where Bill Murray's going with this. But it's one of those small things. This is why these guys kind of stole the movie here. Like that's good shit that you just thought of. He's just like, I'm just gonna take this pitchfork and slowly put it up to his throat while I'm selling this war story.
It's probably why Bill Murray's character showed up so much in the movie. It's just because he was great, I would think. And
they said he had a lot of he would just go for like 30, 40 minutes and then they would take like the best bit of that and put it in the movie.
Ooh.
It's a never-ending material machine, but because he has that sketch like a lot, Chevy Chase also has that sketch comedy background. These guys know how to just go.
Yeah.
We also meet like the other caddy main character. I can't even remember his name. I wrote it down here somewhere. It's not super important, but it's the guy who's always smoking a cigarette, no matter what he's doing or where he is at in the scene. He has a cigarette in his mouth.
Okay.
Which cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because that's again like a very like 70s, 80s thing. They just would not see him in a modern, like maybe you'd see like a vape pen, I guess, in a modern Caddyshack adaptation.
Yeah.
And he's got like these two like really old golfers who can't hardly hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And he's essentially like babysitting, which is another like it was Brian Dole Murray's actual memory from caddying. Like the lady's like wandering off. Because being a caddy would suck. These people, they have a lot of money. You don't have any money. They're shitty to you. And even if they're not like overtly shitty to you, they're still pain in the ass.
Yeah.
with what they need. Like in this case, they seem like sweet old people. It's just you have to babysit them the entire. You're taking 2 almost dead people into the woods. Shit's gonna get real. And this is where the guy who's always smoking the cigarette goes in. Him and Danny kind of get in a kerfuffle. Not really sure what over. It's like a very like teenage boy thing. Like, because he's like, I want my paycheck. And he's like, I can't pay you out. The guy's got to pay you out when he gets back. And he's like, well, give me a Coke. And he does. And he's like, that's too expensive. And he's like, I didn't, whatever. And then they end up in this fight. And then Brian Doyle Murray's character comes back and he's like, what does that sign say? And he's like, no smoking. And he lifts him up a little bit. He's like, what does it say? And he's like, no fighting. And I love it's a very subtle line, but he goes, pick that blood up, which is hilarious. And he talks about like, oh, you caddies are gonna get replaced by golf carts if you're not careful, which is like it's a theme in the second movie more than it is the first movie. But even with golf carts, aren't caddies still a thing? You still need to like carry your shit to and from the hole.
I think they still have caddies just because they just people don't want to carry shit themselves.
You don't want to drive all the way up on the goddamn train.
Yeah, they still have caddies. Caddies are still a thing.
Yeah, so you know what? Like, fuck you, 1980 people. We didn't go anywhere.
Now we're caddies with golf carts.
Now we don't have to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
But they probably still get paid shit.
Oh yeah, I bet. Tipped $1.
Don't go spending this all in one place.
I can't. It's not enough.
And then we hear about the Caddy Scholarship, which is a real scholarship because Brian Doyle Murray's friend got it. So basically, like whoever Brown knows is enough, can get a scholarship. Because the person originally had it, like got hit by a car or something. Like they very nonchalantly breeze over this during like the fight scene, where he's like, "Oh yeah, that kid, he got like smoked by a car," and he's like, he was a good kid. Like he was a kiss ass. Now he's dead. And then that's it. We never fucking speak about it again. Again, that's the thing about really good comedy is you don't need to overtly say like, "Hey, this is a joke. This thing we're doing here. It's comedy. You should laugh at this." You just you throw a bunch of shit out there and see if something sticks. But even if it doesn't, you just keep going. So just great performances. Can't even really say writing because it's hard to tell what was written and what was like. I assume the teenagers are doing lines, but I don't even think the rest of them had a script. I think they just fucking showed up and told them what the scene was. Then we have the bit with the doctor where he's like getting paid. And he's like, they can hold off for a little bit longer. Then we meet the judge, who's our villain of the film because he's a rich guy and he doesn't like, he's a very, he likes rules and regulation. Yeah. And his, is it nephew or grandson, Spalding?
Crap. I think it's, I want to say grandson, but I don't remember.
Where he's like, Spalding is like this, like, dumbass.
Yeah.
It's like a child, but not because he's like almost 20 years old. But he acts like a child. He's a spoiled brat, essentially. Yeah. Because he's like, I wanted to play tennis today. And he's like, you're playing golf and you'll like it. And the judge wants to play Ty because that's the thing. Like he knows Ty's really good and he wants to beat Ty, but Ty doesn't play. Then there's a bit where like, again, this is never going to be in a comedy nowadays, but he tells the guy to shine his shoes and calls him colored boy.
Oh yeah. Oof.
But the joke is that this guy then like fucks up his shoes. He's like, you're gonna call me that? Like, all right. And he's like sanding down his shoes. But it's like, ooh, that's never gonna happen again.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things that really show the age.
This was definitely the 80s where there was like, you could still borderline say some really offhanded shit. yeah, it's like you hear that sometimes now and you're like, whoa, like
Mm.
you caught me off guard the first. I'm like, oh yeah, right. This is like, almost like 40 years ago.
Yeah. Oof.
And then we meet Al, played by Rodney Dangerfield, who's
Mm.
like this fat. He's not like a normal rich person. He was like a
Yeah.
guy who who worked his way up.
Hmm.
So he's very like abrasive
Yeah.
and a lot, but he's rich.
Hmm.
And that's the shit that pisses off these like generational wealth people.
Yeah.
So he comes in, and it's Rodney Dangerfield. So he's
Mhm.
just fast talking, that's Dangerfield's shtick. Is goes. Everything's a gag. Everything's
Mhm.
a mile a minute. And he's tossing money around too, like what he's doing. He's like, "Oh, hey, you take this, get you a little something. Here's that for you." Makes fun of the judge's hat. That's another bit.
Mm.
He's like, "Oh, this is an ugly hat. This is a horrible hat." And he's like, "Oh, it looks good on you though." Again, it's good. It's Rodney Dangerfield's like I've always loved his comedy. And
Yeah.
it's essentially just his comedy in the context of a script.
Hmm.
To the point, he was such like just a comedian that he didn't know action meant go do the scene. Like they're all just standing there. Ramis calls action, and then Dangerfield's just like looking around, and they're like, Rodney, you gotta go. He's like, oh, do the bit. And he's like, yeah, do the bit. And then they go, action, nothing. Rodney, action means go do the bit. And so every time with Rodney, they never said action. He would just say, hey, Rodney, do your bit. And then he would go and he would start doing the thing. So he does. I don't know why he never picked up that concept, but it was never action. It's just Rodney do the bit, and he did the bit. So because he understands comedy, he does not understand a set. It's a great place, and Ramis was such a fucking trooper. Yeah, like he knows how to work with comedians. He has the background, and would arguably be like one of the best guys to work with these comedians because he got some of their best work out of them. Because I've seen some other Dangerfield films that this is the star role for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think because the other ones it's just this kind of a stand-up bit. And then we meet Stacy, who's like this hot, rich girl. I think she's like the niece of the judge or something.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
And she's from the city, and she's like a wild child, and she doesn't want to be in this boring country club. And everyone's like trying to get with her. And this one Spalding is in the background, like missing the ball every time. And he's like, turds. He's like, Spalding. Great fucking bit. And Al's like heckling the judge too with his golfing, and it's great. And he's like trying to like bet on it. He's like, we'll put money on it. And he's like, that's illegal. And he's like, oh, you'll owe me then. It's fine. He's like, I don't owe you anything. Oh, he just gets under his skin so easy, and it's so satisfying to watch. And Al has like this golf bag that's like it's like a Mary Poppins bag. Like just everything is in it. And that's like a recurring bit in the movie. It's like, what thing is his golf bag gonna do? Like there's a keg in it at one point. Like he's pulling out like all sorts of crazy shit out of it. There's a radio in it. There, like it keeps changing on what it can do. There's a telescope on his golf club. It's good shit.
Yeah.
And the judge is doing like the kicking the ball thing. He's like subtly cheating. He's like, "Oh, you didn't see that, right?" And he's like, "Yep, no, sir." Because at this point, Danny's just trying to brown nose to get his scholarship.
Yeah.
And while that would be like a main point in the movie, it kind of takes a side note here for a minute. But we do check back in with what is supposed to be the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
We just get distracted by the goings ons. So then we see that Carl is trying to like flush out the gopher.
Yeah.
But the gopher just like sees him put the hose down there and just like,
Hmm.
I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
It's a fun cat and mouse bit.
Yeah.
And I could see why they wanted this to be like a silent kind of deal. Because it
Hmm.
would literally be Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
Uh but again, just hearing Carl like just rambling on, talking about like his strategy out loud. It's a
Hmm.
fun thing to watch. So Danny and Maggie, they're getting close. This is like his summer fling kind of deal, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and the judge has a tantrum during like this golf game where he throws his club and it like flies over and like nails this lady on the head. This is where
Well,
Danny comes in
yeah.
smooth because he covers for him. He's like, "Oh, that was my
Hmm.
bad. I didn't put the grip tape on your club." And he's like, "Oh, you remember that next time. I'm so sorry about this. These boys nowadays."
Yeah.
This is a smooth move.
Yeah. Really getting the brown nosing in though really helps him out with that.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Hmm.
But again, it's just good. The guy who plays the judge, he does such a good job at like
Yeah.
like he's like the penultimate straight man to this all this comedy. He never gets to be funny on purpose. He always has to just sell the bit,
Yeah.
but he does it so well because you want to see him lose so bad. And really, he never wins anything. There's not a point in this movie where it ever feels like he's gonna succeed in anything.
Hmm.
So again, perfect casting across the board, honestly.
Yeah.
Because and we'll talk about it in the second movie again. If you have a lesser performer or a lesser written part of that role,
Yeah.
it does not sell the right way. And then so they're at like this party. And Spalding's going around like sneaking drinks and he ends up like drinking like a cigarette butt or something
Mhm.
and like throwing up in someone's car. But it's like a kid at a wedding going around
Yeah.
just like hitting the cups. Carl's also cleaning his gun like crazily at this point. It's a fun little scene where Bill Murray's just
Hmm.
rambling. And Al's coming into the crowd, and everyone's getting upset because he's like talking to this guy's wife, and he's making a joke here, and he's made a joke
Hmm.
there. But then some people really love him,
Yeah.
and that's what makes the judge so pissed. Is that like Al's a sociable person who can fit in?
Yeah.
It's just not in the way you traditionally would at a country club.
Yeah.
So there are some like he's at this table people and they're laughing at all of his jokes and he's getting over with the bit. It's only the highest snootiest people that they get upset. So and again, I think that's an element missing on the next one is
Yeah.
that he's liked
Yeah. Yeah.
by the country club. That's what makes it even more frustrating.
Hmm. Yeah. You don't really root for him at all in the second movie. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't at all.
And then Maggie's getting jealous of Stacy because obviously everyone's giving her, the attention. Like she calls her a whore, and I'm like, well, we don't have to go that far.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where Al's like, tell the chef his food tastes like dog food, and they have to like hold back the chef because he's like
Hmm.
dog food, and he's like got the cleaver, and it's
Yeah.
again very small cutaway gag.
Yeah.
But it sells. And this is when Ty and Stacy kind of like start giving the eyes to each other. And this isn't like a romance that is a part. Like I think in some movies, like this would be its own thing
Hmm.
about like, oh, he doesn't care and whatever. They're gonna, he's gonna start caring about her. No, they just fuck once, and that was it. But like this, so like she's kind of giving him the eyes, and he's doing the normal Chevy Chase shtick.
Hmm.
And she's talking about like going to the city. I party all the time and it's boring out here. And he's like, ooh, this is my chance. I got to jump on it.
Yeah.
Then we have the dance break. And I love Rodney Dangerfield's dancing.
Mm.
It's very much like old comedian, just like a lot of arm movement.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. And he dances with the judge's wife and talks about like how she probably was good looking like 40 years ago. Good dig. And then so Spaulding vomited in this guy's car. There's a bit where like they come out to the car and the guy sits in it and you see him like realizing he sat in vomit. It's good stuff there. So Ty only cares about golf. That's established. And it never really, there's no point where he changes, which is why I think his character was supposed to be so minor. He doesn't have an arc.
Yeah.
He's just here to assist with Danny, essentially. So Danny and Maggie hook up, and there's the other guy's like jumping in the window, like trying to watch.
Yeah.
It's a classic like National Lampoon teen comedy bit. So then we get the pool scene where like all the caddies are hanging out at the pool, and people are roughhousing. They're synchronized swimming for some reason.
Like destroys the tower. It's fucking gone.
Sacks the lifeguard. And then this is like the famous bit where they take a baby Ruth and they chuck it in the pool.
Yeah,
everyone thinks it's a turd.
It's great.
But like, I feel like there's so many other like good comedy bits in here.
Yeah.
Like the tomboy caddy who like takes off her hat and it's revealed like it's a chick. Like, that's like a fun little like, again, just very quick. They're like throwing people with their clothes on, but then they're doing the synchronized swimming in like sneakers and shit. Again, it's all like really well done. But yeah, the Baby Ruth scene is what everyone remembers. They like clear out the pool, and then Bill Murray bites into it. Yeah, the lady faints.
Yeah,
and it's like Jaws with them like running out of the water. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Really well done.
All in the span of 15 minutes.
Is it really 15 minutes?
I think I mean they're only allowed at the pool from 1 to 1:15. I think it said.
Yes, but and then there's that part where like Stacy like dives into the pool and everyone's like eyeballing her because Maggie starts getting jealous because everyone's staring at Stacy. Which the actress couldn't wear her contacts into the pool, so she actually had to get help onto the diving board because she couldn't see. So that's a fun little bit for him. Oh, and with the lifeguard too, he's like telling everyone to calm down, and someone says, "Shave your ass," which is a weird comeback. You know?
Yeah.
And it's said by a kid, like the girl in the group, but like it is something that like maybe like a 12-year-old would shout at someone because it's got profanity in it, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Love scene between Chevy Chase and Stacy's character. This got improvised. It was supposed to be a pretty standard like massage sex scene kind of deal. And Chevy Chase kept adding shit, and I think it threw off the actress, kind of made things a little uncomfortable. Probably not a type of scene you want to just start doing shit in. And also she kind of got like low-key kind of forced to go topless because she talked to Harold Ramis and he's like, it's fine if you don't want to do it, we'll just like cut around it, it's not a big deal. But like while he was taking a phone call, maybe like 5 minutes later, the producer's like, you better fucking do this, you're not gonna work. Gross old Hollywood stuff. But good for Harold Ramis for just being a good dude and not really wanting to pressure people. But yeah, and they have good chemistry, Chevy Chase and this actress. It's just that it sucks that she had kind of a weird experience, you know?
Like because like if it was any other scene, really, I feel like it wouldn't. Like she's not gonna get bothered with him in any other scene, except for probably this one.
Yeah, I mean, especially because she's like a younger actress. You want people to be comfortable during these very uncomfortable things that they're doing, you know? So yeah, it's not the time. If you want to add shit in, talk to the other person involved with the scene.
Yeah, maybe he was feeling just as uncomfortable, and he just like I just want like I don't know what to
I mean, I don't know. There
maybe
wasn't much info
I don't
about
know.
his thoughts on it, but like, yeah, he should have just chilled out on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then we get the boat scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie,
Yes.
where the old guy's like super happy about it, about his boat. Uh, and we also meet like this asshole lawyer guy that Danny kind of rags on, which is fun. But the judge's wife, she like goes to like christen the boat,
Yeah,
and she
and
just smacks
yeah.
the jib right the fuck off. Oh, it's so funny.
I'm glad I know what that part's called now.
It's like one
I
of
completely
the
forgot.
only parts of a boat I know what it's called.
Yeah, but yeah, just fucking slams it. That's great.
Yeah, the bottle doesn't break,
Yeah.
and the thing just goes. I rewound that like 5 times. And Stacy's flirting about like,
Yeah.
and then Al sees him on this boat, and for some reason just starts beelining toward him,
Yeah.
unsure of what his goal was. But like he like
Yeah.
waterboards a fisherman,
Yeah.
and basically just ends up sinking this boat.
Yeah.
Then Danny and Stacy hook up.
Yeah.
Which is like out of nowhere, because I always thought like the vibes that she was giving him was like he's a younger guy, she's not really interested, she's he's not mature enough, but she just fucking goes for it.
Yeah.
And then the judge walks in on them,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like going bananas with a golf club and trying to hit him with it, and he like walks in on his wife in the shower, and she's kind of like into it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this old couple downstairs that was like, I wonder where's the tea, and then the fucking thing falls. Good bit, good comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, just really good, like 80s teen comedies, man. Like they get timing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the famous Cinderella story scene where Bill Murray's just like hitting flowers, like talking about the game, which was also just purely improvised. Because they told him to just like, hey, narrate a golf, like your dream golf game. And he's like, can I request that I get a bunch of like roses? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then he just starts hitting them and doing the thing.
Great.
Again, it's just like off the top of the head, it's just gold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we find it's like bam out of nowhere, like Maggie's pregnant. And it's like this serious kind of scene that comes in that it's weird because it gets kind of taught like resolved very quickly and sloppily.
Yeah.
Like it's a deep, which I think is a good like representation of like being a teenager, like going about things, and all of a sudden like you hit with a curveball and shit's like real for a minute.
Yeah.
Because Danny, like everything's going right for him. Kind of.
Yeah.
He's fucking bitches left and right. The judge might give him a scholarship. He's actually a good golfer. He's good at his job. Now this girl's pregnant. What do you do? And he's like, we should get married. And she's like, I didn't want that. And it's like, oh man, this is getting real.
She seems more upset about it than he is.
She doesn't know how to handle the situation, which is fair because she's a teenager. And then we get the golfing in the rain scene, which is like a really great scene where like it starts raining and the doctor's having Carl caddy for him, and he's like, do you think we should go in? He's like, nah, it's barely gonna rain, and it's like torrential downpouring, but this guy's having like the best game of his life. They're just getting nailed with rain and wind, and then he's like on the last hole, he's about to do like a perfect game, and it falls just short and he gets struck by lightning. It's beautiful. It's and again, it has nothing to, it's just like a side bit, but it's very memorable, very well performed. And like the doctor's all shooken up at the end of the film because like get hit by lightning. It's great. And also like that he, like he feels like, or it wasn't the doctor, it was the bishop or reverend or whatever he was. Because he like lost his faith in God because of this golf game, which is great. Uh, so basically, they're at this party, and the judge and Al make a deal where they're gonna play a game of golf, and there's a lot of money at stake.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it goes up like several times.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times it gets doubled. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be a doubles golf game. So it's going to be the judge and the doctor, I think.
I think so.
Against Ty and Al. Obviously Ty is a really good golfer. That's who everyone wanted to have on their team. Meanwhile, Bill Murray's making like the plastic explosives of all the animals. He's like all of his animal friends, the friendly squirrel. It's a great bit. And then meanwhile, Ty's like practicing golf and he ends up like in Carl's house because the ball lands there, and he's like,
yeah,
care if I hit this off of here? So then they're having like this back and forth, and like he tells him to smoke this thing, and he's like, oh, it's horrible. And he's like, here, drink this. And he's like, oh, it's worse. He's like, gonna hit it again. And this wasn't in the script either. They just were like, we have Bill Murray and Chevy Chase in a movie, and they have no scenes together.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to give them a scene together.
Yeah.
Even though they hadn't spoken because at SNL, like Chevy Chase had like a big meltdown because Bill Murray kind of took his place, and they got along for the scene though. But granted, they probably shot this thing in like an hour, 2 hours, depending on how long it took to set up shot. But it's a well performed scene, and I'm glad that they were able to get them both in a room and do it.
Yeah.
So the judge calls in Danny because the doctor can't play. Meanwhile, Carl's setting explosives. He got to set up the end game here.
Yeah.
Al's having a rough game, so he like feigns an injury, and Danny is his replacement. And he's like, well, you'll never get the scholarship. And he's like, guess I didn't want the scholarship after all, because I'm an 80s teen and I try to be in society, but really I just figure out I got to do my own thing.
Yeah.
That is like all 80s, like main character comedy, like their arc.
Yeah.
They're like kind of lost. They think they want to do this thing and they try to change who they are, but really they don't need to change who they are because they just need to figure out who they are and do their own thing. That is like the stereotypical way to do it.
Yes. Not a good way to really go through life very often, but it worked for you in the 80s.
These were different times.
Yeah. You could say fuck it and you'd probably do well.
Now, like, you got to have something.
Yeah.
And then also like the staff's betting on Spalding, like picking his nose and stuff, which is a fun bit where he's like, I'll double it if he eats it. And he's like, come on, kid, no. And he does it. He's like, my God. It's a fun thing. So Danny's obviously playing a really bad game. And so when they get like all the money, like basically when it's like a ridiculous amount of money, the last shot gets hit. It's so close, but it's not quite in. The judge starts to celebrate, but all the explosives go off.
Yeah.
Which causes the ball to slowly inch, then sink. Like it's tense for a second. And then we have, our heroes have won. The villain got shit on. The Gophers dancing.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no real deep journey that these characters went on.
Nope, they all just kind of party afterwards.
Yeah, because Dangerfield has that line. It's like, hey, everybody, we're all going to get laid.
And they probably did.
I mean, this is like 1980s cocaine parties. I'm sure that they were fine.
Yeah.
So that was Caddyshack. Cole, give us your encapsulating thoughts here.
Encapsulating thoughts. It's kind of like several movies put together a bit. Like, you have the kind of teen rom-com a little bit. You have the old golfers and you have Bill Murray. Like 3 separate little sections that flow together in some way. Um, I don't think I remember too much from watching it back when I was a child, but I do remember watching it because I would watch it with like alongside like Space Jam because I think we had it like videotaped, like
I was like, was it
recorded
because of
when you
Bill
could.
Murray? Because it's like the only thing that connects those two movies together.
Yeah, I think they were just playing close together one day, and we got them recorded on VHS when you could record stuff off the TV onto the VHS back in the day. And I'd watch it, with my dad and stuff. Um, Stuff definitely went over my head then that does it now. I think it still holds up even with the kind of dated jokes that you kind of like. Those are bad. We're not trying to say it's good. It's bad, but it still holds up as a decent comedy
Not as
flick. That I think.
offensive as a lot of like other movies.
Yes,
Like this is
yes,
actually pretty. It's still pretty tame.
yeah.
It's not
Like I,
like a Soul Man from the '80s with C. Thomas
uh,
Howell.
yeah. Like I mean, there's more offensive movies that come out now than what Caddyshack
Also
is.
fair. Also fair.
So like I mean, I think it's something that everyone, if they haven't already watched it, should watch it at least one time. Get like you're seeing a big group of great comedians fuck around together, and it works.
That is
Like,
fair. Uh, like I said, this is like horror movies and like teen comedy coming of age films from like the 70s to the early 2000s are also like those are the two kinds of movies where I just
mhm.
I can watch them no matter what.
Yeah,
Uh so this hit all the vibes for me. It has some great career defining performances from people like Bill Murray and Chevy
oh yeah,
Chase, Rodney Dangerfield. It's very well written, but even like the extras, like the small roles, like everyone
mhm.
really just got what this movie was.
Yeah,
And it translates well, and that's why it's still like kind of highly regarded.
yeah.
Are there flaws? Yes,
Mhm.
and like the movie just about the teens that was originally meant to be. Am I curious to see what that could have been? Yes,
Yeah,
but I understand why they went in the direction they went.
yeah. I mean, like it's a better movie for what it is now than what it could have been. I personally think.
All right, so let me move on to Caddyshack 2. The Shack is back,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we open with like this Jaws parody with the gopher.
Yeah.
And I
With
think this kind of sets the tone of what we're in for.
yeah.
Because this movie it's basically Caddyshack 1 with not as memorable performances, and everyone's
Mm-mm.
character dumbs it down quite a bit.
Yeah. And
Like I said about how good comedy doesn't point out that it's comedy,
mhm.
this comedy likes to say that it's comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're introduced to the new snobs.
Hmm.
Like this girl makes the caddy like go get a soda, and so the opening is him running to go get the soda.
Doesn't he like run right in front of people like
Teeing
driving?
off, yeah.
Yeah, like like that's dangerous. It's like really dangerous.
Uh yeah, and to run this soda, she takes one drink of it and just drops it.
Yeah.
And I think Kenny Loggins also did the soundtrack to this movie.
Mhm.
Because the intro song sounds like one of his songs,
Yeah.
but it's not as banging.
No.
Like
No.
Caddyshack 1 opens. I mean, you set that tone. This
Yeah.
one, I don't know if it did. This one kind of sounds like the opening of Jason Takes Manhattan, which is kind of a good comparison, I guess.
I
I think
feel
they
like
came out the same year, 88.
1988. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Jesus.
and the gopher in this has like also been dumbed down. Like it's eating food and drinking drinks.
Yeah, it's got its own like little horde in its
Yeah.
little
And
abode.
it's much more vocal because in the first one,
Yeah.
it just makes a couple, but it acts like a gopher.
Hmm.
It's just going around doing gopher shit, and when Bill Murray tries to kill it, it gets away.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't do anything wild, and this dancing is the only thing that
Hmm.
it does that is crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yep.
this one, it almost speaks.
Yeah, it's like sentient now.
It's voiced by Frank Welker, who's fucking Scooby Doo.
Wow.
But it's very pointless that you got Frank
Yeah.
Welker to do this.
Yeah, like that's a great voice there. And you that's rough.
Yeah.
That's rough. I didn't know that. That's rough.
And then the guy does the thing where he's like the son of the main antagonist, and he's the lawyer. And he's like, your caddies are getting fired because we got golf carts. And again, we talked about this a second ago. It doesn't take away the job. It just makes it
easier.
So we meet Kate, who's like trying to be a rich kid because her dad has like worked his whole life to like get wealth.
Yeah.
And so, but she's like, Dad, don't embarrass me. I'm just trying to be one of the country club people. Meanwhile, he's playing poker at his construction site. And this character, whose name is Jack, is essentially, it was supposed to be Rodney Dangerfield's character. I'm fairly certain. Just, catching back up with them. Because he's in the same line of work as Dangerfield's character was, kind of the same story. But Dangerfield saw the script to this and threw it in the garbage. So they had to get someone else. And they got this guy who's funny, but it feels like he's doing a Rodney Dangerfield impression.
Yeah.
With the comedy. And a lot of the characters in here just feel like they're doing an impression of a character from the first movie, but it's not as good.
Yeah, he's honestly rather obnoxious throughout.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's really any moments I like.
His whole character is that he doesn't like these rich people because he had to work for a living, and they're, it's a movie about class warfare. Whereas the first one, even the three different stories that it told, class warfare was never really part of it.
No.
Because the Judge versus Al, both of them were rich. And it wasn't that he was poor at one point.
Yeah.
Or that he's trying to change things or bring things in. It's just that Al is obnoxious.
Yeah.
It really pissed the Judge off because he's a dick. That is their conflict.
Yeah.
And then Danny's conflict was not knowing what he wanted to do with his life. And Bill Murray was trying to kill a gopher.
Yeah. No one was like classist at all. No one cared.
Even with the caddies, it never really was a thing.
Yeah. Like.
So, but it is like the thing in this movie. It is like the theme that they just keep hammering you with.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, we get it. Like, we know what you're going for.
Yeah.
And so like the rich people are trying to save because he's doing construction to bring in like lower income housing. And like, they don't want the poor people to move in, but they're trying to say they want to save this building because it's part of their history. And he's like, well, it looks like shit now. It's a frame and a sewer now. It's not what it was.
Yeah.
Which is fair. And they're like, well, you're gonna have to make us move. And he like chased them with a bulldozer. That's fun.
Yeah.
And he meets Miffy, and he makes him like Muffy, like his joke doesn't land, and everyone gets embarrassed. But I think that's how the audience reacted to this movie. All these jokes were happening, and everyone's just like, ooh.
Yeah.
And so we catch up with Ty Webb, he just feels like Chevy Chase.
Yeah. Which it's fine for me a bit, honestly. It's like my favorite part of this movie.
But really, it feels like Chase is even dialing it in.
Yeah.
Whereas the first movie, he's playing a character, he's acting, but he's doing his Chaseisms to add to the character, but not overshadow anything. In this, it feels like they're like, Chevy, we'll pay you an obscene amount of money to show up to this movie. And he's like, okay, but I'm gonna be in a robe. And I do not read lines. I am going to just say what I say, and you just craft the narrative around it. So it feels like he doesn't give a shit, which I don't blame him for not giving a shit, but just don't show up like everyone else did.
Yeah.
and second, it just it doesn't feel like Ty Webb.
Mm.
You could have wrote him in as another character, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be mad that he's in the movie, like just a different character.
Right.
I mean, we've watched Demons 1 and 2.
Yeah. And that was the best part.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's great. Bobby Rhodes, the Bobby Rhodes theory.
Yeah.
If Bobby Rhodes was in Caddyshack too,
it probably would have made it a lot better.
Would have made it a lot better. Just a bunch of sweaty working out dudes around them. I'd be like, all right, cool. Finally, they get what the people want. So, and Chase is going around doing his thing. Jack's doing his thing about, being all grumpy. And then we meet Chandler, who's essentially just the judge's character from the first movie. But at this point, I think the actor had died. So, but probably wouldn't have come back to do this movie anyway.
Yeah.
But Chandler has that. He's been in a bunch of things, but he has a very distinct voice. He's like a news anchor. And Chandler's wife is the woman that almost got bulldozed earlier. So there's already like tension.
Yeah. But
Chandler's like, no, we're going to brown nose and get him to do what we want. And Jack essentially has Al's gimmick of having like all the high-tech clubs and not really being good at golf, just being more of a showman.
Yeah.
But it doesn't match his character because he's supposed to be like the working class guy. So why would he have bought all this shit that makes no sense?
Yeah. I think it was supposed to be like just for some gag, like fit, like
yeah,
in
but
the movie.
It was supposed to be Al's character.
But it's just
like you could have wrote that out because they're not good gags either. Because in the first one, it's like the radio, which is like the noise thing and makes the guy miss, and that's funny. Or it's a keg, and you're like, oh, like what more could you fit in this thing?
Yeah.
This one, it's a shotgun and a laser system, which stops the guy's pacemaker, which is kind of funny because it's in the background. That made me laugh a little bit. But like it took it too far because it didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
That bit was old. We did it in the first movie. We don't need to do that same bit. We can do a different bit. But that's like this movie in a whole. That they can do their own thing, but instead end up just kind of touching base. Even though they got only Chevy Chase back, all these characters just feel like old characters.
Yeah. But
worse.
It really is just like the lesser version of like every single actor that was in the last movie, every single character in the last movie.
Then we meet Randy Quaid's character, who's the Jack's lawyer, and Quaid is just doing his thing that he always does. He's not really a good actor, but he's good at what he does. He's good at his shtick. Yeah, because he's like doing the thing where he's like, oh, I may not know much about law, but I know I'm gonna kick your fucking door down. Yeah, it's a good bit. And he's like, I sweet talked him a little bit. It's good. It's funny. And also, I don't even think it's acting. Randy Quaid's definitely went off the deep end in the past like decade. So maybe that was just him. Maybe he never had a script. He was just came in, stumbled on the set, and started doing it. Also, I forgot to even talk about this character, but Elizabeth is kind of like the Stacy character in a way, where she's like one of the rich people, but these rich people don't like her because she's hot. Don't really know why they just like her. Yeah. But she's into Jack for reasons, but they don't really have a lot of chemistry. They did this dance, and it makes Kate all like be like, "Oh, you're embarrassing me." Then the Gopher crashes the party and eats a bunch of food. Right. Again, it's just like, well, it's too low brow at times. Yeah. And they even start talking about class because Harry, who was probably supposed to be Danny, is talking about like the difference between like being rich and not being rich, and doesn't really matter. No, because that was never supposed to be the theme. So they had like a people auction, but they called it a slave auction, which is not great. Yeah, that was that was rough. They even call it Mandingo at one point. I'm like, whoa.
Like this is 88. It's pushing to where they cannot do stuff like that, and they're going even harder than they did in the last movie.
And then there's a bit because Frank buys them all and makes them work his construction site, which is
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
They're all like in their suits, and like the old lady's got the jackhammer.
Yeah, it's very unsafe.
Yeah, I mean, you worked these kinds of jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like the guys like carrying the bag of cement, but it's got like a hole in it.
Yeah, it's pouring all over. You got to be careful of that shit. That you like they probably inhaled some of that on that set. That probably was not fun. That shit's fine powder.
It might not have been actual. Man,
it might not have been actual cement, but that you never know with old movies.
Yeah,
like
they were also coked out of their minds. They didn't fucking
yeah. It could have been cocaine. It's fuel.
Cocaine.
Fuel of the movie. Oh.
And like Kate has like this moment with Harry, but ends up leaving him for rich people.
Yeah, for a douche, just
because she's got to learn to be herself. So they have this meeting in a sauna, like all the guys meet in a sauna, and I thought there was gonna be a joke about it because they did like the dick jokes early in the movie, so they kind of they got like they didn't wait.
Yeah.
But like I thought there was gonna be like a gag about them doing this in the sauna, and it wasn't. They're just in towels talking. It's like if you're gonna go lowbrow, go lowbrow.
Yeah. Like I would have accepted old wrinkly ball jokes.
Yeah.
Like,
but again, Chevy Chase spouted them all out in the beginning, and they're like, fuck, we can't double down on this.
Maybe they just really wanted to relax for a scene.
So Frank wants to buy the country club from Ty.
Yeah.
And there's a scene of him like golfing in his house. Because again, we got to touch back on the first movie when he golfed. But the thing about golfing in Carl's house, because it was a piece of shit, he didn't care. He's in his like mansion.
Yeah.
It's a weird vibe. And again, Chevy Chase seems like he very much did not give a shit.
I do get like one of my like what I think is one of the funnier moments of the movie when he's talking about his parents. He's like, where are they? Oh, they're in so-and-so place. It's like, oh wait, no, I think they're dead. Like,
it's a good bit.
Yeah, like that was funny to me. I liked that. Like that made me like actually audibly laugh.
But yeah, so Frank buys it, kind of turns it into like a theme park. Brings in all these. It looks like a mini golf. It doesn't even look like golf anymore.
Yeah.
So all the rich people are like, he changed our club, and all these people, and Randy Quaid's doing his shtick where he's like, let's make it like football. I'll defend the hole and hold my beer. And he's wearing his floral trunks. So it's a whole thing. He's essentially doing his Cousin Eddie bit.
Yeah.
And we get the lifeguard scene where like basically Harry's told to fuck with the lawyer kid, so he takes all the water out of the slide, so when he goes down, it's kind of funny. That was one of the gags. I was like, all right, that was good.
That's like a part of like the goofy comedy stuff that I kind of like, slapstick stuff,
and that's what's in the first movie. But a lot of the times what they do in the second movie just feels like it's the same thing, so it's not funny anymore. But this was its own thing and was funny. So then Chandler hires Dan Aykroyd, who's like this old war. It's essentially Carl. Dan Aykroyd's doing a Bill Murray impression.
It's rough. It's hard
Bill
to watch.
Murray didn't want to come back for this either. And it's not even a good one.
Yeah.
Like he's doing his voice. It's bad.
I don't like watching it whenever he's on. Like it's rough. It's hard.
I love Dan Aykroyd. He's such a good performer. He's in some of my favorite, like Ghostbusters, Blues Brothers. But the bit he's doing with like Mrs. Esterhouse and it's bad. It's just all around not good. It's a bad SNL sketch what he's doing. There is another like small thing that was really funny to me is that when Jack's getting ready for his date, his blow dryer is a gun. That made me laugh. But like there's this he gets like locked out of his house and start like breaking into the front, and then like his daughter sees him and is like, well, this is the final straw. You are existing in our home. And so they have this like forced angsty bit.
Yeah.
Where he's like, oh, you're not appreciative of what I gave you. Get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah.
Then we touch back with Ty because they got to set up the golf game, even though it's exactly how we ended the first one. The winner gets control of Bushwood. Aykroyd blows up the wrong car, which was kind of funny. He's supposed to blow up Chevy Chase or Frank's car. It's a fun bit. We also there was a horse riding bit too. We kind of breezed over, but it's the joke is that the horse is wild and farting. That's the joke. It's not good. And then Frank sees the gopher. Or no, I'm sorry. Aykroyd sees the gopher and then was like, well, this is because, Bill Murray was after the gopher in the first. It's so forced. Yeah. Like the gopher just pops up.
Yeah.
Because the whole reason that Carl is so determined to get because he was assigned it was a task.
Yeah.
Kill the gopher. Dan Aykroyd is assigned to kill Frank, but ends up going after the gopher. That is not supposed to be the bit.
No.
That's so bad. But yeah, essentially, Frank's really bad at golf.
Mm-hmm.
So it, like Harry's trying to make him better because he's like just turning him so that his shitty shot goes in.
Mm.
The Chandler tries to get the guy killed. Doesn't work. An explosion happens, which causes the ball to sink in the hole. That's the end of and Miffy, the girl character, because Kate's like, I don't need to be rich. And like, this girl takes some pratfalls because she gets shoved down and then rolls down a goddamn hill. Like she got her shit wrecked.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Caddyshack 2 in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Caddyshack 1, but worse.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Caddyshack 2, Cole?
Ooh, I feel bad for Dan Aykroyd.
I feel bad for everyone.
Including
I really feel Harold Ramis, who was forced to come back to direct. They begged him to do this.
Yeah.
Told him that Dangerfield would be there, and he wasn't there. And he ended up be like, fuck, I got to make this movie now.
Yeah. Like, it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard watch. It's a hard watch. Like, it seems like they try to do like things from the last movie, but try to go bigger a bit,
which doesn't work.
It doesn't at all. The gopher thing was really weird. It really seemed like they forced it the entire time throughout the whole movie, just because it's a bridge between this one and the last one. It felt like that was the bridge was the
like
gopher.
The same gopher. It's like this comedic, glutton gopher.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad movie. I mean, watch it, I guess. I mean, Chevy Chase is still a Chevy Chase. There's points in the movie, like when Ty's talking about his parents. That's a funny one. The slide when to turn the water off. That's a funny one. I really don't think Dan Aykroyd has really anything funny at all. I don't think I laughed at him at all.
A lot of the times when you come on screen, I was like, oh, man, I was hoping it would end soon, so I really didn't pay attention. Because even the bit when he's like telling Chevy Chase to suck the poison out of his asshole, like I was like, it's just not working for me.
Yeah, and the voice he does is kind of off.
Oh, let me tell you, Mrs. Esterhouse.
Yeah,
bad.
So
all in all, Caddyshack was a really good movie with a couple of things that weren't great.
Yeah.
Caddyshack 2 is a really shitty movie with a couple of things that work. It's like the complete inverse.
Mm-hmm.
So like the first one it's classic. It's worthwhile watching. The second one, forget it ever existed.
Yeah.
You don't need it. It's gonna ruin your effect of the first.
A couple pieces of trivia I didn't
work into the covering of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
The explosion at the end of Caddyshack actually, like a plane saw it and thought there was an accident and called it in.
Pet.
Because they had to build like a mound over the green because they didn't want to actually damage the golf course. They blew it up. So the main cast was kind of annoyed at the star, like the comedic stars for doing all the improv because they kind of took away from their film. And Doug Kenny actually was not happy with because the Gopher kind of got forced into the movie. There was a lot of things where he didn't really agree with the direction and kind of he was already going through a spiral anyway.
Yeah.
Of depression. I think this was like the nail on the head for him. Also, the actress who played Maggie, this was her last film appearance because she ended up having like a huge drug problem because film sets in the 70s and 80s were very coked up, especially with younger casts. So she kind of like went on a spiral and kind of like left the limelight and got her shit together.
I feel like this isn't the movie to get coked up for, though. Like,
hey, they partied every night.
Yeah.
The only one they didn't was Harold Ramis because he was prepping for shoots. But on the last day of filming, he got so drunk he had to be carried back home. Then Caddyshack 2 trivia. Sam Kinison was going to be Randy Quaid's character, but turned it down because Dangerfield backed out. Okay. Would have been an intro. I get how Kinison works into that scene where he's like doing the lawyer bit, then he starts yelling.
Yeah.
That's Kinnison's whole like comedy style.
Yeah.
So I could see where that role would fit in.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to see it, especially, because Kinnison probably died not too long after this. So yeah, Caddyshack 2 obviously didn't have as much trivia. It was mostly just people hated it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chase said to call him when they added the laugh track, which is how frustrated he was with how the film turned out. But he still came back. So everyone else was like, no, fuck you. I'm not doing this movie.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get the teens to come back. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, it was a case of the studio wanted a sequel. They didn't have a good idea for a sequel, but they did it anyway. So, yeah, Caddyshack, it's a vibe. It's a time and a place film. Caddyshack 2, there's no Caddyshack 2.
Yeah, like apparently it's the one that plays on television a lot.
Because I didn't even know there was a Caddyshack 2 till I saw the DVD of it.
Wow.
And I bought it. So I fucking own Caddyshack 2.
Oof.
This is going to be just sitting on a shelf in my house for ever.
Yeah.
Probably never going to watch this again. Caddyshack 1, I will probably revisit every now and again. Mm-hmm. Especially as like maybe like it's nice to touch base on good movies like that because
yeah,
probably in like 20 more years we'll be like, ooh, they did that stuff too.
Yeah.
So that is our discussion on Caddyshack and Caddyshack 2. Join us next week when we discuss Evil Bong Infinity High.
Ooh, yeah.
We didn't know that they would keep making these fucking movies.
I actually thought they were done.
No, I mean, who knows? Because also we got the Gingerweed Man after that, so who knows how long this shit goes for? We may have signed up for something that doesn't end. I don't know.
Yeah. Oof.
So join us for that train wreck. Because as much as I don't like Caddyshack 2, I'm sure I'm really not going to like Evil Bong Infinity High.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm open to being surprised.
Yeah, I guess we've gone so far.
We've gone deep.
We can only go up at a certain point.
Yeah, like I mean, I think we've said that and proven ourselves wrong several times
so
with them.
We'll see how low can we go.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to start doing cocaine to get to these fucking Evil Bong movies.
Yeah, jeez.
All right, so until next time, stay safe, stay nerdy.